Doppo Kunikida is an idealist and a straight-laced detective at the Armed Detective Agency, an organization that takes on dangerous jobs even the police won't handle. Everything in his life is going just as he's planned, until one day he's paired up with the agency's newest hire, a suspicious, eccentric, suicide-obsessed man named Osamu Dazai. Their first case together turns out to be far more complicated than Kunikida anticipated, and it looks like the agency's sworn enemy, the Port Mafia, is somehow involved too. Set 2 years before the events of the manga series, this is a tale of how two seemingly incompatible personalities end up forming the partnership that has made them one of Yokohama's top detective duos. That's what the book of this video is about. Bungo Stray Dogs, Osamu Dazai's entrance exam. A story written by Kafka Asagiri with illustrations by Sango Harukawa. For the people who only watch the anime, the plot of this light novel might seem familiar. That is because this light novel was for the most part adapted into the anime as episodes 6 and 7 of season 1. Unfortunately though, the anime did those episodes as Dazai already being part of the agency and Atsushi still being pretty new there. In the light novel, it's actually that Dazai is new at the agency and Atsushi isn't even part of it at all. When I found out how the story actually goes, I thought that maybe it's like Kunikida and Dazai telling Atsushi about the whole thing and Atsushi imagines himself to be part of it. That thought, though, couldn't be what's going on, because for that, Atsushi plays too much of a role in the anime episodes. But first, what's going on in this book? The book starts with a quote by the author Doppo Kunikida from Meat and Potatoes, but look, you can't eat ideals. Then there's a talk about ideals in the notebook, a to-do list, and Kunikida and Dazai are chasing a criminal. Then we have Dazai who's high on hallucinogenic mushrooms because he wanted to try to kill himself with fatal ones. It's explained how Kunikida and Dazai met and got introduced to each other. There's also a flashback of Fukuzawa and Kunikida playing Go while they're discussing Dazai. Fukuzawa mentions that Dazai was recommended by Chief Taneda of the Special Divisions for Unusual Powers. Fukuzawa tells Kunikida that if Dazai turns out to be a danger, then Kunikida should kill him, and he gives him a gun. Back in their present, Kunikida and Dazai got a mission from an unknown client. They're meeting their informant Rokuzo Taguchi, who's supposed to find some people and figure out who the unknown client is. Dazai asks Rokuzo if he has any dirt on Kunikida. Then Dazai asks Kunikida why he looks after Rokuzo. Kunikida explains that there was an explosion by the Azure King where 5 police officers died, one of them Rokuzo's father. Dazai and Kunikida both get into a taxi. They're questioning the taxi driver because he saw 2 of the missing person case. Kunikida fills Dazai in on that case and Dazai thinks that the motive might be trade. They discuss a lot and Dazai ends up getting to drive the car. Turns out that Dazai is a terrible driver. Kunikida and Dazai are investigating a house, which is an old hospital. Dazai scares Kunikida, they hear a scream from a living person, and they find a woman in a water tank. Kunikida shoots the tank, kicks it, and saves a woman by the name Nobuko Sasaki. Sasaki tells them that she was visiting Yokohama and lost consciousness around 2 or 3 days ago. They also find some other people that are stuck in a cage with an electric lock. Dazai tries opening it with a password, one of them being "Mine has been a life of much shame," which is a reference to the author Osamu Dazai in his book No Longer Human, as that is a line from said book. That is, by the way, not the only time that line has been mentioned in Bungo Stray Dogs. One other time being episode 7 of Bungo Stray Dogs 1.
Today I will be reading aloud from this book here. Page 21. Mine has been a life of much shame. I can't even guess.
Dazai then touches the lock and gas gets into the cage. All 4 people in the cage died. The death and the agency appear in the news. Only Kunikida and Tazaki are visible on the photo. Dazai isn't. There are protesters. Kunikida and Dazai are talking to Tazaki. She tells them that she's anemic and that she passed out at the train station. And Tazaki apparently stayed at Dazai's place, which Kunikida misunderstood. Kunikida and Dazai talk about their ideal type, and Dazai gets to read in Kunikida's notebook about the ideal woman, to which Dazai tells Kunikida to never show this to a woman and that such a woman doesn't exist. They find out who the kidnapper is. It's the taxi driver. Kunikida and Dazai explain how the kidnappings happened and the taxi driver only wants to turn himself in if he gets protected by the agency. They all get attacked by the Port Mafia. Kunikida and Akutagawa fight, and Kunikida ends that fight with water and a stun gun. The police arrives and Akutagawa leaves. The kidnapper is handed to the police. Later on, Kunikida gets another email from the same anonymous client. The client asks them to defuse a bomb or over 100 people will die. There's a short interlude with Dazai typing on a laptop and wondering if the agency and Kunikida will save Yokohama. There's a meeting in which the email from the anonymous client, the Azure Apostle, gets discussed. Kunikida talks to Rokuzo to trace the emails. The emails are apparently from an expert who used multiple hubs to hide their tracks. Dazai is talking to Sasaki and Kunikida tells Dazai what they discussed at the meeting. They're thinking about if the Azure Apostle might be the Azure King and why they're tarnishing the agency's name. Kunikida and Dazai are both in Tokyo in the United States Embassy for an undercover mission because it appears that the Azure Apostle is from another country. Dazai talks to the receptionist pretending that he needs a refugee. They're taken to a diplomatic reception where they meet a man who's a third attaché, which is not a high enough rank to know intelligence agency secrets. They pretend to be from the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's Public Security Bureau. They get told that the boss of that bureau will come. Kunikida tries to make up an excuse why the boss shouldn't come and Dazai helps him out with that. The attaché ends up helping them and they meet the US intelligence operative who knows that they're from the Armed Detective Agency. The operative gives them a file of who might be the bomber, Zadkiel Lemta. In exchange for the information, he wants them to hand over Lemta to the operative, which Kunikida doesn't want to do. Back at the agency, Ranpo is there and helps them. Dazai and Ranpo meet. Ranpo figure out what a bomb is in a fishing gear shop. Kunikida and Dazai drive there and Dazai explains to Kunikida that the target is the oil storage facility. And Dazai tells Kunikida that Ranpo doesn't have a skill and that it's simple deduction. They reach the shop, found out where the bomb is and put a wireless jammer there. They found Lamta's body with a 00 on it. They find out that the taxi driver is dead and also has a 00 on him. Rokuzo calls Kunikida because he traced the emails and the emails were sent from Dazai's computer. Kunikida and Dazai drive to an abandoned warehouse where Kunikida points a gun at Dazai and questions him, thinking that Dazai might be the Azure Apostle or maybe even the Azure King. Kunikida shoots Dazai in the head. Another email from the Azure Apostle comes in saying that there was sent an interference signal to an aircraft's engine in yoke, which is disabling its functions. And Dazai is not dead, because Kunikida used a gun and bullets made with a skill which Dazai nullified. Dazai explains that when he got framed, he put a GPS tracker on a person who framed him, and how he knew that something was up. When they were in an old hospital, Dazai never actually touched the lock. They're both driving to the location of the tracking device. They get in touch with someone on the plane, a little girl. She tells them that the plane is falling. Dazai talks to her and gets the captain of the plane on the call. They get to the location of the tracking device. Dazai goes to the operations room with the communicator where he has to fight someone. And Kunikida fights a guy who has the skill to put a number on someone. The guy with the number skill destroys the key for the communicator. Dazai and Kunikida switch places, so that Kunikida fights the guy in the operations room, and Dazai fights the guy with the number skill. Kunikida creates a new release key and stops the plane from crashing. Kunikida and Fukuzawa have a talk. Dazai passed the entrance exam. Kunikida and Sasaki are at the cemetery, and she tells them that her boyfriend died. She leaves, Kunikida gets a call from Dazai and they meet. Dazai knows who the Azure Apostle is. Rokuzo appears, which makes Kunikida think that he's the Azure Apostle. Then Rokuzo gets shot by Sasaki. Sasaki is the Azure Apostle. Dazai drops his gun and asks Sasaki some questions. Her boyfriend was the Azure King. Then she gets shot by Rokuzo. In the second interlude, Akutagawa meets the guy with the number skill and kills him. Then Akutagawa meets the man that Kunikida and Dazai met at the embassy who appears to be from another group named the Guild. Akutagawa is looking for someone with a nullification skill, his mentor, former Port Mafia executive Dazai. In the epilogue, 2 years have passed, right before Atsushi joins the agency. Kunikida tells the other members about that whole case. He goes out to look for Dazai and finds him at a river. That's the story. I think the story is really well written. I love the relationships and interactions between the characters, not only between Dazai and Kunikida, but between all characters. It tells the story so much better than the anime adaptation did, especially since the anime didn't adapt it correctly. I'm quite disappointed in how the anime portrayed this and left out certain scenes, like the one where Kunikida holds Dazai at gunpoint. This book is mostly in Kunikida's point of view, only, for example, the interlude chapters aren't from his view. So in the other chapters where it is from his view, we also get to read some of his thoughts. I don't know if I like it that it's from his view, because then we only get to see his view, basically. But that's also what makes it interesting, because we only know how he perceived things. I really like that there are some illustrations, because then we also get to see the characters, how they look like, some of them, and also can imagine it partly better. I'd say this book is in general great for all Bungo Stray Dogs fans, because with this book you also get to read some stuff that isn't in the manga or in the anime, even if the anime mostly adapted it, but the parts that weren't in the anime. This book is especially great for people who like the relationship between Kunikida and Dazai and want to read more about it. It doesn't matter whether you see them as romantically or as friends, colleagues, that type of stuff. Either way, it's great to see how their relationship, partnership developed in the first place. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more of this, or perhaps certain books that you would like me to talk about, then let me know down in the comment section, and hopefully we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!